Told you that NDSU had dismissed second-year linebacker Jaiden Pickett from their football program after he was arrested by Fargo police on Sunday morning. Court documents say Pickett got into an argument with two people in the 1200 block of 11th Street North before firing a handgun at a home. Thankfully, no one was hurt, but Pickett is facing charges of terrorizing, reckless endangerment, and possession of a stolen firearm. Today, NDSU coach Tim Polasek spoke on the incident, and Valley News Sports Director Devin Fry was there. Devin, what did Coach have to say about this incident?
Yeah, Gabe, it's been a roller coaster of a weekend for North Dakota State. A day that started with their first win under head coach Tim Polasek in their home opener, all obviously overshadowed by what occurred just hours after that final whistle. Coach Polasek opening up his weekly media availability this afternoon by telling us about their decision to dismiss Pickett, saying that while it's never easy to cut a player, especially with the relationships that they form, it was crystal clear what they had to do. We asked Polasek about that decision and his reaction to what happened on Saturday night.
Being a student athlete at NDSU, comes with high expectations, easily understood standards, and obviously he violated the student code of conduct and was not representing the program nor the university in a first-class manner. I really am thankful. I prayed on it. Nobody else was harmed in this great community, and none of our other student athletes were harmed. And so, you struggle with the emotions of it, but I have to lead this football team, and that's what I'm focused on now.
Coach Polasek also took some time to thank Fargo police for their handling of the situation. Now the team has to try to move on. We'll hear from Coach tonight in sports about how the rest of his players are handling this incident.
All right, Devin, thank you so much for that insight. We're going to have more, as Devin mentioned, from Polasek on Valley News Live at 6 o'clock.